When bidding on fiber optic cable projects per foot, several factors must be carefully considered to ensure profitability and competitiveness. Firstly, the cost of materials including the fiber optic cable itself, any necessary conduit, connectors, and other hardware needs to be estimated. Secondly, the labor costs must be determined, which include the hourly rate or daily cost per person involved in the installation. This should account for pulling the cable, splicing it, testing its performance, and any other related tasks. Thirdly, any equipment costs should be considered. This could involve renting or purchasing specialized tools like cable pullers, splice boxes, and testing equipment. Fourthly, assess the site conditions where the installation will take place. This includes the terrain, potential obstacles, and any existing infrastructure that might affect the complexity and time required for the job. Fifthly, the length of the fiber optic cable run directly impacts the material and labor needed. Longer runs require more cable and more time for installation. Sixthly, the cost of splicing the fiber optic cable and conducting thorough testing to guarantee proper connectivity must be included. Once these factors are understood, a sound bidding strategy is essential. To begin, research industry benchmarks by consulting with experts, contractors, or analyzing data from past projects. These will offer insight into average pricing for similar jobs. Next, calculate all the material and labor costs based on estimates. Be thorough and accurate in these calculations. Then add a percentage to cover your overhead expenses, such as insurance, office space, and administrative costs. This also guarantees a reasonable profit margin for your business. When preparing a bid, highlight any unique capabilities or expertise that differentiate you from the competition. This could include specialized equipment, highly skilled crews, or a track record of successful projects. It's crucial to determine the lowest price you are willing to accept, one that covers all costs and still generates an acceptable profit. For example, if the average industry rate for fiber optic cable installation is $2.50 per foot per run, and the estimated material and labor costs for the specific project are $1.50 per foot, a bid could be structured as follows: a bid price of $1.50 plus $0.50 for overhead, and profit would equal a total of $2.0 per foot per run. To increase the chances of winning bids, it's essential to provide clear and detailed information. Outline the scope of work, technical specifications, and any assumptions made during the bidding process. Also, be prepared to negotiate with potential clients while ensuring that the final price covers costs and provides a reasonable profit. Consider offering additional services like ongoing maintenance or monitoring of the fiber optic network to enhance value proposition and attract clients. Maintaining a professional and reliable approach throughout the bidding and installation process is crucial for building trust and securing future projects. When breaking down the specific costs of fiber optic cable installation, remember that the cable itself comes in various types, each with different price points. Single-mode fiber is typically more expensive than multi-mode fiber, and the required bandwidth and distance capabilities will dictate which type is needed. Consider the cost of connectors, which can range from standard connectors like SE and LC to more specialized connectors required for specific equipment. Include the cost of any necessary adapters or patch panels. Conduit, whether PVC, metal, or flexible, protects the fiber optic cable from damage and environmental factors. The type and amount of conduit needed will depend on the installation environment, whether it's buried underground, run through walls, or suspended overhead. Labor costs should be broken down into different tasks. Firstly, the cost of site preparation, which may include clearing pathways, digging trenches, or installing support structures. Secondly, the cost of pulling the cable through conduit or along a designated path, which requires skilled technicians to avoid damaging the cable. Thirdly, the cost of splicing the fiber optic cables, which requires specialized equipment and expertise to ensure proper connections. Fourthly, the cost of testing the installed cable with an optical time domain reflectometer or OTR and other testing equipment to verify signal strength and identify any faults. Regarding equipment, consider the cost of cable pulling equipment, which can range from simple hand-operated pullers to more sophisticated power-assisted pullers for long or difficult runs. Secondly, fusion splicers, which are essential for joining fiber optic cables and can be a significant investment. Thirdly, optical time domain reflectometers, or OTRs, are used to test the integrity of the fiber optic cable and are crucial for identifying any issues. Site conditions can significantly impact the cost of installation. Firstly, underground installations often require trenching and backfilling, which adds to the labor and equipment costs. Secondly, aerial installations may require specialized equipment and safety measures for working at heights. Thirdly, installations in existing buildings may involve navigating tight spaces, avoiding obstacles, and working around existing infrastructure. Distance plays a critical role in bidding. Firstly, longer runs require more cable and can increase the cost of materials significantly. Secondly, longer runs also require more time and labor for installation, especially when pulling cable through conduit. Thirdly, signal loss can become a factor in longer runs, requiring the use of repeaters or amplifiers, which add to the cost. Accurately estimating splicing and testing costs is crucial for ensuring a profitable bid. Firstly, fusion splicing requires skilled technicians and specialized equipment, and the costs can vary depending on the number of splices required. Secondly, optical testing with an OTR is essential for verifying the integrity of the fiber optic cable, and the cost can depend on the length of the run and the complexity of the testing required. When researching industry benchmarks, start by contacting local contractors or industry associations to gather information on average pricing for fiber optic cable installation in the area. Secondly, consult online resources and industry publications to find data on pricing trends and standard rates. Thirdly, review past project data to identify any patterns or trends that can inform future bids. When calculating material and labor costs, be as precise as possible to avoid underbidding. Firstly, obtain quotes from multiple suppliers for the fiber optic cable, conduit, connectors, and other materials to ensure you are getting the best prices. Secondly, estimate the time required for each task, such as site preparation, cable pulling, splicing, and testing, and factor in the hourly rate of the technicians involved. When adding overhead and profit, consider all the indirect costs of running the business, such as rent, utilities, insurance, and administrative expenses. Include a profit margin that is reasonable but also competitive, taking into account the market conditions and the level of risk involved in the project. When considering competitive advantages, emphasize any unique skills or expertise that you bring to the table, such as experience with specialized fiber optic systems or certifications in advanced installation techniques. Highlight any specialized equipment or tools that you own, which can reduce the need for rentals and lower overall costs. Showcase past projects and client testimonials to demonstrate a track record of successful installations. Setting a minimum price is crucial for protecting the profitability. Firstly, calculate the break-even point, which is the price at which the total revenue equals the total costs. Secondly, factor in a desired profit margin that is sufficient to compensate for the risk and effort involved in the project. Thirdly, consider the competitive landscape and adjust the minimum price accordingly, but never go below the break-even point. To illustrate how these factors come together in a bid, let's look at a detailed example. Assume a project involves installing 1,000 feet of single-mode fiber optic cable in an existing commercial building. Firstly, the material costs are estimated as follows. The single-mode fiber optic cable costs $1.0 per foot, totaling $1,000. The PVC conduit costs $0.50 per foot, totaling $500. Connectors and other hardware costs are estimated at $200. Therefore, the total material cost is $1,700. Secondly, the labor costs are estimated as follows. Site preparation takes 8 hours at $50 per hour, totaling $400. Cable pulling takes 16 hours at $50 per hour, totaling $800. Splicing takes 8 hours at $60 per hour, totaling $480. Testing takes 4 hours at $60 per hour, totaling $240. The total labor cost is $19-20. Thirdly, equipment costs are estimated as follows. The rental of a cable puller costs $100. The rental of a fusion splicer costs $200. The rental of an Optic costs $150. The total equipment cost is $450. Fourthly, overhead costs are estimated at 15% of the total material and labor costs. So, 15% of $1,700 plus $19-20 equals $543. The desired profit margin is 20% of the total costs, including materials, labor, equipment, and overhead. So, 20% of $1,700 plus $19-20 plus $450 plus $543 equals $922.60. The total project cost is the sum of all these expenses: material costs of $1,700, labor costs of $19-20, equipment costs of $450, overhead costs of $543, and profit margin of $922.60, which equals $5,535.60. The bid price per foot is the total project cost divided by the length of the cable run. So, $5,535.60 divided by 1,000 feet equals $5.54 per foot. This example illustrates how to break down the various costs associated with fiber optic cable installation and arrive at a competitive and profitable bid price. Remember to adjust these estimates based on the specifics of each project and the local market conditions. When presenting a bid, be sure to include a detailed breakdown of all costs, including materials, labor, equipment, overhead, and profit. Provide a clear scope of work, outlining exactly what is included in the bid and any assumptions that were made. Offer options for additional services, such as maintenance or extended warranties, to increase the value proposition. Be responsive to any questions or concerns from the client and be willing to negotiate on price while still maintaining a reasonable profit margin. Follow up with the client after submitting the bid to answer any remaining questions and reinforce the value of the services. By carefully considering all these factors and following these best practices, you can increase your chances of winning fiber optic cable installation bids and building a successful business.